Hi guys, it's Jamila. Welcome back to my channel. Uh-oh, mama. Today, I have a special guest here with me. I have my beautiful baby girl, Layla Jane. It's been a long time coming. She's here. She's really big now. It's taken me a long time to sit down and film this video because I've been going through it. And I'm sorry if y'all hear this chair squeaking. We were supposed to fix that. Okay, this chair is gonna irk me. Okay, so today I'm gonna try and do my labor and delivery story. I don't know if I'll be able to just sit down and do it all in one sitting. Let's start from the beginning. So pretty much I ended up reaching 41 weeks pregnant, and they pretty much told me when I went in on my appointment August 13th that I would be induced because I didn't have enough amniotic fluid or some nonsense. They told me I didn't have enough amniotic fluid to continue further, or they didn't want me to continue further in my pregnancy, which in hindsight I kind of feel like was bullcrap, but we'll get to that later. Before that, I was trying really hard to go into labor naturally. I tried a ton of things. I drank raspberry leaf tea. I was walking like crazy as much as I could. I was exercising, doing squats, dancing around my living room, doing trying to get the baby to out. I was doing everything. The only thing I didn't do midwives brew or castor oil. I was about to, but honestly I chickened. Hey Layla. Honestly, I chickened out on that one because I heard good things about it and I heard horrible things about it. I heard for some people it just gave them really bad diarrhea and they still didn't go into labor. So I didn't do that, and plus I heard rumors that it could cause your baby to poop in the womb, and that could be a problem for your baby's health and all this stuff. So I was like too chicken to actually try that one, but I pretty much tried everything else. Like I was going in trying to get this girl out of me. Pretty much I went to my 41-week appointment, and like I said, they were saying I didn't have enough amniotic fluid, and they told me that night I was going to be admitted into the hospital. They were going to give me a cervix softener, and then after that I would stay at the hospital, and if the cervix softener didn't put me into labor, ma'am, can you stop uncovering me please? I guess they would induce me. We were late to the hospital that night. We were like almost 2 hours late, but we went anyways, and I should put a little bit of a vlog up for y'all to see. It's not gonna be much because I was uncovered and unbothered, but yeah, we went in. I believe I got the cervix softener around 9 p.m. that night. Putting the cervix softener in, it's like this little, I don't know, kind of chippy looking thing. They stick it all the way up and there's a string attached to it, and she had to like put it, I don't know, behind my cervix or something like that in order to soften it. That was very uncomfortable going in, but once it was in, it was in, and I had to be careful when I went to the bathroom and wiped because they didn't want it to come out, so that was uncomfortable. And we had Subway for dinner. Okay, so baby's crying in the background, but she's with her dad, so it's fine. The night before, they were wanting to put the IV thing on me, like the thing where they can hook up the IV or whatever, and I didn't really want it because I didn't want to have it on all night, but they told me I had to get it, which I don't even know if that's true. So I had to sleep with that uncomfortable big clunky thing on my arm. And not to mention that, but when she was trying to stick me for the IV, she jacked it up so bad that my whole arm was like blue. Like it was really messed up. It was blue and yellow and all this stuff because it was bruised so bad from her rolling the vein, and she was moving the needle around in my arm. It was just really bad, and my silly behind just sat there and took it honestly, because in my mind I was like, I have to be able to take this because I'm gonna be in much more pain later. Super dumb idea. I should have said something. Somebody else ended up coming in, sticking me and putting the IV that I didn't want. Anyways, and then we went to sleep for the night. I had a little bit of a fitful sleep because she was kicking me and she was moving around a lot as she normally did. She was such an active baby in the womb. In the morning, they checked me. They checked me for the first time since I had the cervix softener and I was 2 centimeters dilated. And then they started me on Pitocin and the real stuff started. So throughout the afternoon, my contractions started to get stronger. Me and my husband, we went on a little walk around the floor that we were on. Layla, stop it. We went on a little walk and tried to really get the contractions going. And every once in a while Layla! Every once in a while the nurse would come in and up the amount of Pitocin that I was taking. So things get pretty fuzzy from here. I would have the Pitocin, I would walk around, I'd bounce on the ball and everything like that. Can I ask you why you're pulling my hijab off? Huh? You want a nurse or something, girl? Before I had gone into the hospital, I was not dilated at all. My cervix was not open. I was effaced though. Weirdly enough, I was almost 100% effaced. I don't understand it either. Yeah, so once I was 2 centimeters, we started walking around the hospital. We could only stay on our floor because of COVID and we could only go through certain areas and we had to wear our masks. And then I came back into my room and I got comfortable and bounced on an exercise ball or labor ball, whatever you want to call it, for a couple hours. And then my nurse kept upping my Pitocin slowly until my contractions were getting closer and more painful. So it got really real. The pain was starting to get to me a lot. I FaceTimed my mom and I was like really sad because when you're in that much pain and you're having a baby, you really want your mom to be there. And because of COVID, I could not have my mom with me, and that just really upset me a lot. And I just remember being on FaceTime with her and I could tell she was emotional and trying not to show it to me because I was in so much pain. I was going through contractions on FaceTime with her and it was just like a really heartbreaking for me and sad, and yeah, it was very rough. I ended up getting off of FaceTime with her because I didn't want to be upset and make her sad that she wasn't there and all of that stuff, even though I think that's inevitable when you're a mom. But it was just really hard for me not having her there or not having somebody with better wisdom of the whole process and everything. I'll be honest, the parts where my pain was really intense, I kind of started to black out a little bit. I was in a lot of pain and moving around the room, going from the bed to the ball, all of those things. A nurse came in to check me again. She could not get up high enough to check how many centimeters I was, and she was trying so hard and it was so uncomfortable and painful, but I just grinned and bared it. And then she couldn't do it, so another nurse came in and she tried, and I don't think she could do it, so they got someone who they thought would be better to do it, and she finally got up there. They kept coming and sticking their hands in me, and it was very traumatizing because it was so uncomfortable that they would stay in there constantly trying to push up to see how many centimeters I was. And I really should have just said no. I just should have said no, because with all that struggle and then pushing to get up there and not even being able to, it made me so sore and swollen down there. So once the lady finally came who could actually check me, she said I was around 4 centimeters dilated, and at that point I was in enough pain to where I don't know why I didn't want to get an epidural. So I asked them to put some type of pain medicine in my IV. So while I was waiting for that, I finally had, after the lady checked me and she said I was 4 centimeters, I had a bloody show. I started bleeding like a lot. This is the most blood I've seen in 9 months. So I was freaked out. My husband was freaked out. I was just bleeding on the bed, and I was so scared that something was wrong because they kept pushing their hands up at me, and it was just I was freaking out. But the nurse came in and checked me, and she said it was called a bloody show, and that's actually a good thing because it means your labor is progressing, blah blah blah. Meanwhile, I wasn't buying it. I was just like, this happened because y'all kept shoving hands up me, but whatever. So anyways, after that, they had to give me cooling pads to put down there because I was so sore and swollen from them sticking their hands up me. And I would wear those and keep having them switch them out, and I was bleeding all everywhere. So they finally came in and gave me medicine in my IV. When my pain was really getting up there, I was starting to cry. The contractions were like just coming back to back. It was just so painful. The medicine for a short period of time gave me some relief. It didn't take away the pain really. It just kind of made me a little high so that I wasn't paying as much attention to the pain. But at some point when I was like that and had the medicine in my IV, it started getting like, the contractions started getting so much worse, so much closer together. I remember just crying, and I was like, it's like I'm being hit by truck after truck after truck, and it was just very painful. So I was just pretty much in a lot of pain and high, and that didn't really help anything for me, to be honest, after a certain point. So it was really rough. And then finally the doctor came in to check me and see how many centimeters I was. Now by that point I had 3 or 4 people check me, half or more of which could not even get a dilation or how many centimeters I was dilated, because I don't know why they couldn't. I was so sore and in pain down there. And so by the time the doctor came, when she put her hand up in me, at that point it hurt so bad. I just started sobbing. I was holding the bed super tight, holding Ahmed super tight, and just crying my eyes out. And she got up there and she told me I was about 6 centimeters dilated, and she had her hand up there and I'm crying, and she's just like, you know, do you want me to go ahead and break your water? And I was like, honestly, I was so scared and traumatized. Like I just keep saying that, but I was really freaked out. And I was just like, I told her, I was crying, I was like, I'm really scared, like I'm really nervous. And she was like, she pretty much was like, nothing I do right now is gonna feel like hurt any worse than what you're feeling right now. And she was like, just tell me, do you want me to go ahead and break your water? So I was just like, yes. I told her to go ahead. She was already up there. She said it wouldn't hurt more than what I was feeling, and I was in pain. I was in a lot of pain. So I just squeezed Ahmed's hand and she broke my water, and honestly it didn't hurt any more than what I was already going through. I don't think it hurt at all, to be honest. And she, whatever she used to break the bag, because I felt her stick it up in me, whatever she used, she broke the sack or the bag, and water started gushing out of me. Uh-oh. Water started gushing out of me, and it was like the weirdest experience. So she removed her hand, and they continued to give me the Pitocin. I continued to labor and be in a lot of pain. I was delirious, I was high on drugs, and it was just a bit chaotic. And the whole time I'm like gushing water, gushing blood. And when I tell you, I gushed amniotic fluid for so long, hours and hours and hours. I really gushed forever, and it kind of like aggravates me because maybe it's just my own perspective, but I just feel like with that much amniotic fluid coming out of me, how did I not have enough for my baby? Honestly. And then at one point the doctor made the remark, she was like, imagine like how much you needed if this much is coming out or something like that. And I was just like, yeah lady, whatever. So at one point I was just like crying so much, and like I was delirious, and I was like crying because water was gushing out of me, and I was upset that it was getting everywhere. Like I would start panicking, and I'm like the water is coming out, it's coming out, it's coming out everywhere. And I think it was just the medicine like had me a little like frantic about everything, and I was just in general very frantic because it was also new to me. But I was like crying about that, just in so much pain. Like for a lot of the time I was laying on my side, hanging onto the bed rail like this, like shaking and cold. And I like at one point my teeth started chattering really bad, and I just felt like I was freezing. Like my teeth were chattering so hard. At some point, I really don't remember this, but my husband said that I asked for an epidural, and I just really don't remember. But when he told me like they were going to get somebody to give me the epidural, I was pretty much like, why? And he's like, you said you wanted epidural. And I just trusted him. I was like, if you said I said that, then I guess we're gonna go with it. What ended up happening was I had to continue to labor without an epidural because the anesthesiologist was not available. They were in a surgery at the time that I asked for an epidural, and also there were like 2 or 3 people ahead of me to get epidurals. So I had to wait quite a while. I think I was like 6 centimeters. I don't know if I said that already. I think I was like 6 centimeters at that point. I don't know how many centimeters I was when he finally came to give me the epidural. So pretty much it was a guy, and they went ahead and skipped over some people who didn't need it as urgently as I did, or who weren't in as much pain, and had him come to me whenever he finished with whatever he had to do. And beforehand we had requested from the staff for them to cover me up as much as possible if the anesthesiologist did indeed end up being a male, and it was a male unfortunately. But I could see his legs under the curtain, you know, the curtain they have in front of the door to your room. He was standing there waiting to come in, and they're trying to cover me up, and I was in so much pain. I was like, I don't care, just let that man in here so he can help me, because I was going through it. I was in so much pain. I was like, please let him in here like right now, ASAP. I don't care if everything's out, I don't care if my butt's out, whatever. So they let him in because I asked, and the nurse still, you know, afterwards she covered me up as best she could, and I didn't have on a hijab. My back was out. It was just chaotic. So the anesthesiologist, he tells me, he's like, okay, I'm gonna put this sterile equipment beside you. You can't touch it, or I have to start over and get new stuff to use on you, pretty much. And I was like, okay. And then, you know, I agreed to that, whatever, and a freaking contraction from hell just like literally hit me, and I did like this, like on the bed, because it hit me so hard and so sudden. And I literally, my hand went in the, I don't know if it was a tray or like a piece of paper with the sterile stuff on it, and he was just like, oh. I heard him like audibly make a sound, and he was like, you can't do that, you can't do that. And I'm like, dude, shut up, you're a man, you've never been through this, shut up. Like, just put new stuff out. But in reality, I was still high, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, these contractions, blah blah blah. So the second time he put the stuff out, I was holding on to my husband, who was sitting in front of me, and the contractions were hitting me. So it's very hard, but you have to stay extremely still when they do the epidural on you, and it doesn't matter if you have contractions hitting you like trains. So I'm getting contraction after contraction, and I'm curling my back, and I'm scared of paralysis, so I'm holding on to my husband and being super still. And literally, he does the epidural, he sticks the needle into my back, and it was painful, but when you're in that much pain, that does not compare, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it hurts, but what you're going through hurts way worse. So if you're ever scared of getting an epidural, just remember that your contractions are going to be way more painful than that needle in your back. It was something that I personally worried about before going in, if I did get an epidural, which I didn't intend to, but look what happened, alhamdulillah. But literally, the contractions are worse, so don't worry about it. Anyways, he stuck the needle in my back, and I felt this weird, I never mentioned it, but I felt this weird shock go up into my neck, but I was too scared to move or say anything, so I was just literally like, are you still changing her?
No, this got done.
Oh. And yeah, I felt this shock go into my neck, and it was like it was like electric, like painful. And I hope that wasn't anything bad, but at the time I was just so scared of everything that I was about to say something, but he was still doing stuff in my back. So I just squeezed the crap out of my husband and leaned into him. So I got the epidural, and when I tell you the difference with that epidural was heavenly, the fact that I could just lay back and talk normal and get some sleep, oh my god, just for that I would get an epidural again. I would get it again, because that was the worst pain. Those contractions were the worst pain I've ever felt in my entire life. Babe, do you want me to take her?
You think you could get her quiet?
I could put her on my boob. Whew, I feel the milk letting down on the other side now. Oh man, she is eating like a Hoover vacuum. What the heck? Mom life. Anyways, I got an epidural, and it was amazing. No regrets really on that front, except for the fact that I do feel like it kind of limited me in my movement, and I don't know if that would have made a difference in how everything turned out in the end, but I can't say, so I don't know if that's a sincere regret. But anywho, I ended up getting some rest, which was incredible, amazing, fantastic. However, once I reached around 7 or 8 centimeters, I stopped dilating, and the doctor started talking about me getting a C-section. And I pretty much begged her to give me some more time to try to further dilate, and I really tried my hardest. Like, they would move me around, like turn me from side to side, and part of the reason why she was saying that I should probably get a C-section is because the baby's heart rate was dropping, or something of that nature. Like, her heart rate kept dropping. So when I was asleep, pretty much, and I had the epidural, when I was sleeping, like 3 or 4 nurses just suddenly bombarded into the room, and they were like, you need to turn over. They were like freaking out, and I'm just like, I don't even know what's going on. I'm getting like sleep. I don't know what y'all are talking about. Meanwhile, all these nurses barge into the room, and my poor exhausted husband did not wake up at all. They're flipping and turning me and changing the monitor around on the baby and everything. And I wasn't panicking at all because she felt fine, in my opinion. Like, I don't know if that's bad, but like, she felt fine. I could feel her. She's constantly moving around in my stomach. I personally think that I'm not even 100% sure that whole time that her heart rate was even dropping, because they were saying that she was getting tired from the contractions going on and being so close together for so long. But I just felt like she was fine. She just kept kicking the monitor off. I could feel her kick the monitor off of her. She's very strong-willed. She still is outside the womb, but inside she was always kicking. She hated the monitor. She'd kick it off. So once things calmed down and I guess I was being more still, she just started kicking the monitor. So I wasn't panicking at all when they rushed in like that. I just did what they said. I turned over. They kept coming in constantly, flipping me, turning me. It was just like kind of exhausting, frustrating. But after all that, she told me that I should probably get a C-section. I begged her to give me more time, and she was like, well, your daughter's really strong and all that stuff. And she allowed it, but they still started, I saw them prepping ahead of time for the C-section. So I started doing stuff on my own. I flipped over, even with the epidural. I flipped myself over onto my knees and started moving my hips, trying to work my daughter down further into my pelvis, and it did work. It worked enough to get me to 9 centimeters, and then I couldn't get past 9 centimeters, and that was just literally so devastating to me. I think I stayed at 9 centimeters for 6 hours, and it ended up being that she told me my cervix was too swollen to dilate any further. And I'm just so upset by that, and I'm trying to get over it, because I really felt like, and I don't even know if it's medically the way this goes, but I felt like the reason my cervix would not dilate further and was swollen too much to dilate further was because all these, I'm sorry, dummies kept coming and shoving their hands inside of my vagina, and they would keep it in there and keep pushing and pushing and putting me through all this pain and agony. And the whole thing down there, everything was swollen. So I wouldn't be surprised if my cervix was swollen from them prodding and poking me and not being able to even check it. It was so frustrating. So around 6 something that morning, the doctor finally came in. It was 6 a.m. or something like that on August 15th. She came in and she was like, okay, it's time for you to have a C-section. And she pretty much told me like that's what's gonna happen. And I just started crying. At that point I was exhausted. I had no real fight left in me, and on top of that, my epidural was starting to wear off on one side of my body, and no matter how many times I pressed the little button they gave me, it did not help the fact that it was wearing off. And because all that pain was concentrated in one area on my body, it felt like quadruple the pain that I was originally feeling, and it was agonizing. It was so painful. So because I was feeling all that pain and they hadn't been able to fix that, like the anesthesiologist had come in and tried to see if he could get the epidural to start working again on that side of my body, it was not working, and it was some of the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. And I kept begging them to help me, like, because it was just so painful. So by the time she told me that I had to have a C-section, I pretty much, I mean, I didn't have a choice, but I just gave in, and I just probably cried like the most pathetic cry ever. And the doctor was trying to, you know, tell me to look at the bright side, that I was about to meet my baby girl in just a little while. And here's where it gets a little more tragic. So they started prepping the area where I was going to be cut. They shaved down where they were going to cut me, which is right at the bikini line. That's where they do it. What else? I think I had to drink some disgusting drink. I don't remember what it was for, but it was nasty. That's all I remember. It was just very disgusting. Someone from anesthesiology, I think it was a student doctor, came in and she pretty much asked me, did I prefer for them to work off of my epidural site or did I want to get a spinal tap? And I didn't want to get stuck again. So if you get a spinal tap, you have to be stuck again, I think at a different part in your back. I didn't want to be stuck again, so I said that I wanted to them to do it off of my epidural or whatever. That's what I told her I preferred. So they wheeled me off to the operating room. Ahmed had to stay behind and that was scary. So I was in the operating room by myself. They made me move from the hospital bed onto the operating table by myself. When I had an epidural, they made me move by myself while I was in so much pain, this whole half of my body in so much freaking pain. They made me move alone. And I literally remember asking for help and I barely got it. I think someone grabbed the crook of my arm after I was already halfway on the freaking operating table. So I get on the operating table and the head anesthesiologist comes around the table and he asks me, he says, I'm going to let so-and-so, whatever the student doctor chick who came in before, I'm going to let so-and-so try, keyword try, to do your spinal tap. And first of all, I was like, I'm getting a spinal tap? I thought I asked for epidural, but my brain was foggy, so whatever. And he asked me if that was okay with me. And I said, no, I don't want someone to try. I want them to do it. I prefer if you do it. This is what I told him. And he said, well, I'm going to let so-and-so try to do it. And then he walked away off behind me where I couldn't even see him anymore. And I was so upset by that. I felt like violated by the fact that he just completely ignored what I asked for and did what he wanted to do, and it just really upset me. And on top of that, I felt so alone in that operating room, cold, naked on the table. I just felt so by myself and I literally was just crying and asking Allah to help me. And then because of the pain that I was having in the right side of my body, all of a sudden I felt like I had to throw up. And I told the nurse beside me that I was going to throw up. She brought a bag and I started throwing up in the bag. And while I was throwing up in the bag, the people behind me, the student doctor, whatever, starts doing my spinal tap while I'm throwing up. And when you throw up, guys, your body, it involuntarily tenses, it involuntarily jerks and does all these things. And they still proceeded to stick the needle in my back and do whatever they do for a spinal tap. It was literally one of the most traumatizing experiences ever, because I would think, I'm sorry, if you're in the medical field, you can correct me, I would think if someone's throwing up, you would wait until they finish throwing up before you start sticking a needle in their freaking back. Like, I just am so grateful to Allah that I'm not freaking paralyzed, because I just feel like that was so messed up. And then while I'm throwing up, like, people are acting, I saw a few people looking away from me, like, kind of, I don't know if they were trying to give me privacy or if they were disgusted. I don't know. But it was just very disturbing for me. And then once they gave me the spinal tap, they were trying to tell me I needed to sit back. So I'm trying to sit back and they're forcing me to sit back. And then so they told me to lay back and I'm trying my very best, and then they're pushing me back to lay flat on the table. Once they do that, one of the nurses start to take a cold, I don't know, towel, wipe, whatever. She wipes it on my face very roughly and then wipes it on my stomach and asks me, do I feel it? And I'm like, yes, I feel it. She does it again, whacks it on my face and then whacks it on my stomach and asks me, do I feel it? I say, yes, I feel it. And she's like, do you feel it, or do the same way you feel it on your face? Like, do you feel pressure, or do you feel the actual cold of the towel or whatever? And I was like, I feel the cold. Like, I feel it the same way on my face as my stomach. She does it again. I tell her I still feel it. She seems to be, honestly, I felt like she was getting annoyed with me because she felt like I was saying that I felt it when all I was feeling was pressure, which is not true. I know what the hell I feel on my body. And she seemed to be getting agitated by me. And she's like, are you sure it's not just pressure you're feeling? And I'm like, listen, lady, the same way I feel it on my face, I feel it on my stomach. And so they dragged something, I don't know if it was like a pin or a stick pin, I don't know. They dragged something sharp across my stomach and I like yelped out. Like, I yelled kind of like, ouch. And then I hear somebody smack their lips and they're just like, she has to go under. It didn't work. The spinal tap didn't work. They were like, she didn't lay back fast enough. So I'm laying on the damn table. Y'all got an amateur student doing my spinal tap and you're sitting there blaming me, saying I didn't lay back fast enough for the spinal tap to work. Honestly, I don't mean to be, excuse my language, but they could kiss my black ass, because at the end of the day, they did a janky spinal tap. I don't care what nobody say. Oh my. She did? Oh no. You want me to hold her?
Hopefully it's okay. Let me try to see if I can calm her down.
Okay, they did a janky spinal tap and really, like, they had some nerve with their whole chest to act like I was the reason the spinal tap didn't work. And then when the girl was doing my spinal tap, she was like, he told her not to do it the way she was doing it. I heard him tell her that. And then she was like, well, I just thought that something. She didn't even get to finish before he cut her off really like rudely. And he was like, don't think, just listen to what I tell you to do. Like, really ugly like. And I was just like sitting there kind of mortified while they were doing while she was doing the spinal tap, because I'm like, she sounds like an amateur. He's obviously trying to teach her how to do this, and he's arrogant. Like, total horrible vibes the whole time in this operating room. Not to mention the fact that I had an extreme fear of I have an extreme anxiety towards being in hospitals because of experiences I had as a teenager being in hospitals. It freaks me out. The only way that I'm calm is if I have somebody I trust with me, and they didn't let my husband inside of the operating room. So it was such a scary and lonely experience, and I really was freaking out. So I'm laying there and he's like, we're gonna have to put her to sleep. She's gonna have to go to sleep. And then the nurse comes over me and she's like, sweetheart, we're gonna have to put you to sleep in order for you to have the baby. She was like, because of the drugs, your baby may be born sleeping. She's telling me all this stuff or whatever. And she's like, your husband isn't gonna be able to come in with you. And I just start crying, like, silently. I'm just laying there looking up at the light on the ceiling and crying. And then they bring the mask and put it on my face, and the anesthesiologist is telling me to breathe in deeply, and I just couldn't do it. I was laying there holding my breath and freaking out, and he's like starting to get agitated. He's like, you have to breathe. And I was like, F that. And I started making dua, asking Allah to protect my child and bring her into the world safely, asking Allah to protect me, and that if I pass away, to pretty much make it easy on my husband and give my daughter a good life, and just making all these duas while I'm laying there crying and staring at the ceiling. Like, it was just very, very scary moment for me. And then finally, when I couldn't hold my breath anymore, I breathed in, and I think I breathed 3 times before I completely blacked out. Apparently, when I finally woke up, I'm not aware of when I was cognizant or when I was awake and talking. I don't remember the actual moment that I was awake and talking, but my husband said that I was awake and I was talking to him and asking about the baby, where the baby was, if she was okay, and who she looked like. I don't remember any of that. When I finally came to, from what I can remember, like really came to, I was in the recovery room and they had my daughter on my chest. And when I tell you, I looked down and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know who this baby was. And then there's just this lady like trying to have me breastfeed, and she's talking to me about breastfeeding, and I don't know who she is. I don't know what's going on. I was so confused. I was so drugged up. Like, it was just crazy. I didn't know what was going on. All I knew that gave me some peace was that Ahmed was there, and he was just there. That's the only thing that like really was letting me know, okay, everything's okay. I don't know what's going on, but everything's okay. So like, I was really out of it. They were like doing stuff to me and taking vitals, and I had like, I don't know, things, monitor thingies on my chest and stuff, and Layla was just laying there, and I was just very confused because before I had went to sleep for the surgery, I could feel Layla moving in my stomach, and I felt her kicking me like usual. She was in my stomach, and then it was just like total blackout. I wake up, I don't know where I am. There's a baby on me, and I don't feel a baby in my belly anymore. And it was just like kind of just like those little things that kind of made the whole experience very difficult and traumatizing for me. I did have like this weird, for a while, like this weird disconnect with her. Like something deep down in me, I'm sure, knew that she was my baby, but it was just like the way she came into the world and the way that I didn't see it happen at all. Like, I didn't see it happen. If someone switched me my baby, I would have never known. May Allah forbid. That girl's definitely us though. Looking at her now, like, obviously I know that's my child and everything, but it was just such a scary experience and confusing. I can't even stress that enough, how confused I was. I was super confused. I didn't know what the hell had happened, what was going on, what was about to happen. After they did the skin to skin, when I had woke up and they were having her do skin to skin with me and trying to get her to nurse and all that, it was just, I couldn't even, I don't know, it was just so strange and bizarre feeling, and I couldn't even much process that I had had a baby at all. So after that, they wheeled me out into the main hallway to the elevator, and all I remember, I didn't have on any hijab or anything. Layla was still on my chest, and I look up and I see this random guy staring at us. And I'm just like, something really far away in my brain was like, why is he here? Like, I'm not wearing hijab. I don't know what's going on, but I was too drugged up to really care. So I'm just looking at this guy and he's looking at me, and then I'm like, whatever, and they wheel me into the elevator. And mind you, they're wheeling me and Layla around and hitting walls and bumps and all this stuff, and I'm just like, damn, can y'all like make my ride a little smoother? Like, it was just, and I just had surgery, man, come on. But at least they had me on morphine and I couldn't really feel it, so there's that. But they put us in the I guess recovery room, which was super tiny. We ended up staying in the hospital a lot longer than I would have liked to, because for one, I had a C-section, and for two, Layla, she was born 7 pounds, I want to say 7 pounds 2 ounces, but she dropped down to, I believe she dropped down to 6 pounds 4 ounces pretty rapidly. And they kept her an extra night. That was a whole thing that had me an emotional wreck, an emotional mess, because they were trying to keep her in the hospital without keeping me. They gave me a courtesy stay to stay with her in the hospital after I had already been discharged. So we stayed in the hospital, but the thing about the courtesy stay is if I'm discharged, they weren't going to do anything to help me. Like, they weren't going to help me in the restroom or any of those things. But anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So once the medicine started to wear off some and I could kind of hold conversations, I was just kind of getting used to my baby. I had lactation people coming in and out trying to get me to nurse her. We were having problems breastfeeding. There was a lot of bleeding, a lot of tears, so much going on. I had to pump, and all the while, like, I was literally so out of it. I was in pain. I was groggy. I couldn't move out of the bed for a good while. And it was just a lot. Like, you know, it's crazy because as soon as that baby's out of you, you are straight into motherhood. Like, it doesn't matter how exhausted you are. It doesn't matter you're on pain meds. It doesn't matter you got cut open an hour ago. You have to be a mom. You have to try to feed your baby. You have to give your baby skin to skin, and you have to do everything for her right when she gets here, or he, or what have you. Like, it was just so intense. Like, everything was just so non-stop. It was definitely overwhelming. It was like, I don't know, the best way I could describe it is like traumatizing, amazing, incredible, and a culture shock. I don't know, it was just something else, really, truly. And definitely none of it was the experience that I thought I would have or that I wanted to have. And I still slightly get a pang in my heart every time I think about the fact that I was 9 centimeters and I never got to 10. I never got to push. I didn't even get to try to push. She was super deep in my pelvis, and you could tell because when she came out, that girl head was like alien. Like, her head looked crazy. But yeah, the whole experience after, like, the first time I went to the bathroom was so painful. My body was so stiff. Like, I'm pretty sure I cried a little bit. And then, like, using the bathroom was scary. It was all just very scary to me. It was just a fear of the unknown more than anything, but it was definitely very painful and everything, and just very hard mentally and physically. They made me, I think after a day, they wanted me to get up and walk around. I had a catheter at first, so I didn't have to leave the bed, but they ended up taking that out eventually, of course. I was on a lot of medicine to control my pain and everything. It was just a lot, and not being able to have visitors and family made it a lot worse. But to be honest with y'all, we had somebody sneak in to see us. We had, you know, where they relented and would let one person be up there with me. So they let Ahmed switch out with both my mother-in-law and my mother. And when my mother actually came, like, that was a very, very emotional moment for me, because something about becoming a mom and having your own baby really, really makes you want your mother. I don't know how to explain it, but it just, like, just being a mom, even now, like, sometimes I just want my mom. Like, I just want my mom. I want a hug from my mother. I want to be around my mother, because motherhood is hard. It really is. And people don't tell you how difficult breastfeeding was. I can talk to y'all about that in a whole other video, because that was a whole emotional experience for me. It was a very hard mental hurdle to overcome, physical hurdle. My baby's mouth was too small for me, and it was very, very hard. But alhamdulillah, my baby is here. She's a joy to have here. I went through a whole lot, and I can't have any regrets, because she's amazing and she's here and she's healthy, and that's all that matters. That makes everything I went through worth it, no matter how painful, how hard and difficult. Would I have another child? I really at this point don't know yet, because of how difficult my first birth, labor, what have you, was on me, and how traumatizing it was for me. I'm sure I've left out a lot in this video, because I've just mentally blocked out, like, a lot of what happened to me just to survive, like, afterwards. Because the first 2 weeks to a month after I had her was really, really the hardest weeks of my life. Like, the pain I went through when I got home, the mom guilt of not being able to take care of her because of my pain. Like, it was just so much. The mom guilt of struggling so badly to breastfeed. It was just really, really, really rough. And even now I have my days where I'm still emotional. I cry, you know, I get stressed out when she's screaming and when I'm in pain, because right now I'm 2 months postpartum and I still feel pain in my C-section area. Like, I still have body aches. I still can't get on the floor and get up off the floor easily. Like, I have a lot to do to get my body back to where I need it to be, and then the peak of health, you know. But it's been a journey, and I'm just, more than anything, I'm grateful to Allah that, like I said, she's healthy, she's here, she's happy, she's strong as I don't know what. That girl has a major kicks. She's so smart, mashallah. She's just everything. And if all that pain meant I would have the perfect baby that I have now, you know, it's okay. I'll get past all of this and move forward, inshallah. And I am slowly getting better, but I just gotta keep having patience. So if you had a hard labor and delivery and you're fresh out of it, and it feels hopeless and it feels scary and it feels overwhelming and you're second guessing yourself, keep pushing, keep praying about it, keep looking at your baby and trying to remember or understand that all of that was for a greater purpose, and that greater purpose is that child, you know. Because you're gonna have some days where your sanity is tested, where you cry all day, where you cry all night, where you're exhausted past what you thought was humanly possible. Like, there is no exhaustion like the exhaustion of being a new parent. I can tell you that right now. There's nothing like it. You can think that you've been exhausted before, but there is nothing like being a new parent in that first 2 weeks. It's just a lot. It's hectic. It's a painful first 2 weeks, especially if you have a hard labor. Keep your head up, keep the faith. Y'all can do it. It's very hard, and I just hope that I get to a point where I want to have another kid, because I did before this. I wanted a lot of kids. we'll see, inshallah. But I really hope I didn't forget anything important, and if I did, maybe I'll insert some information while I'm editing. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all of you guys' support, all of the gifts that you've sent for baby Layla, and she's using all of them. Like every little thing you guys have sent, whether it was wipes, diapers, a hairbrush, a bow, little cute little hat, or anything like that, she's using everything to the fullest capacity. And we're so grateful because you guys really came through and really helped us out. Like, I'm so serious. We really appreciate it. Jazakallahu khairan. May Allah bless every single one of you, even those of you who wanted to get us something and couldn't for whatever reason, or even if you didn't get us anything and you just support my channel. I really appreciate you guys. Y'all are my day ones. I love y'all to death, and I will see you guys next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum and peace out.